history of the GVRD supplying water, it's the largest project we've ever done.
We put soil on top of the roof, and that helps to stop the amount of water or runoff that we have to deal with.
The excavation front is approximately 4.8 kilometers from the Seymour shaft.
Hello, welcome to the Sustainable Region. I'm Vanessa Timmer. The impressive structure behind me is the Seymour Capilano Filtration Plant. The filtration plant was begun in 2003, and in our next story, we're going to look at some of the milestones along the way. In 2010, some Metro Vancouver taps will pour water that is 10 times better than the national standard. But that tasty glass of water had its beginnings almost a decade earlier, when the Chief Medical Health Officer declared the need to lower turbidity. That is, the amount of fine particulates in the water.
I think the public concern about having a really certain healthy water supply is obviously something we have to take account of. And the federal government, I think, was responding to the Walkerton situation and concerns about making sure that they had standards in place across the country that ensured healthy water. And so we anticipated those regulations coming down, and we changed course and introduced filtration, and it proved to be the right decision.
The decision to build a filtration plant did not come easily. In 2001, the decision was made that Metro Vancouver should be the operator.
But Dwayne came up with this thing of actually pumping in a loop.
Early on, the designers and engineers knew they faced a daunting task. Plans called for one massive facility to treat water from two reservoirs that are a 24-kilometer drive apart. How to do that? Dig a 7-kilometer tunnel below the North Shore Mountains to link Capilano water to the filtration plant at the Seymour Reservoir.
Well, certainly in the history of the GVRD supplying water, it's the largest project we've ever done. This will be the largest water treatment plant of its type in Canada when it's complete. It will also be using the largest UV disinfection facility in the world. And of course the tunnels are a real challenge. First we have to dig a large diameter shaft about 500 feet before we can even bring the tunnel machines onto site.
Approaching a project with sustainability in mind meant a number of innovations, starting with initial clearing in 2002.
And one of the things that we decided to do was to invite groups in to salvage the plant material on the site. Once the filtration plant is built, we will be able to revegetate a certain portion of the site, and the intent is to return it to a state that's as similar to the surrounding forest as possible. So we're planning on revegetating with native materials.
Other sustainable initiatives include eco-smart concrete and geothermal energy to heat and cool the facility. Also early on, an advisory committee was struck so that information could flow from project managers to citizens.
Essentially, we're like a sounding board. We're here on the Baden-Powell Trail. A future drain line is being installed along the trail here. We arranged a meeting to come out here and basically reviewed what trees were going to be cut, what brush was going to be cut, and what would be the timing.
Noise, truck traffic, and dust were common issues, but frogs also benefited from this direct link between observant neighbors and project planners.
There was interest from local environmental groups that the frog habitat that this represented was not found elsewhere in the Seymour Valley. So redesign was done such that we could compress the northern end of the filtration plant and the associated construction, and we were able to save this area.
By mid-2006, hundreds of people were working on the project. Structures were taking shapes, such as the clear wells, which hold the water that has been treated.
Well, right now we are inside the clear well, which is one half of the two systems that we have. This facility itself will house 200 million liters of water, and the overall plant will produce 1.8 billion liters of water per day. That's enough to actually fill BC Place Stadium within 1 day of production. We've processed gravels on site itself, and the concrete that we're using here as well, it's all being resourced within the watershed lands themselves.
Also in mid-2006, the tunnel portion of the project was underway.
We've sunk the vertical Seymour access shaft, and there's quite a substantial cavern at the shaft bottom. And it's a big shaft, 40 feet in diameter and 600 feet deep, and it was also sunk without any major accidents, which is an outstanding safety achievement. In addition to the shaft, there's quite a substantial excavation at the bottom of the shaft.
In 2008, the tunnel project stalled.
They have stopped work because of the safety issues, which we definitely supported. We provided the detailed engineering plans on how to proceed the work, and they have not proceeded the work. Their right to perform work was terminated in May of 2008.
While the search for a new tunnel contractor was underway, work on the filtration plant continued. In spring 2008, Seymour Reservoir pipes were connected to the filtration plant, requiring a rare shutdown of that water supply. A complex rerouting of other reservoir sources ensured that Metro Vancouver residents didn't notice a thing. By the end of 2008, the filtration building was nearing completion and testing had begun.
This is a filter tank that, right at the bottom of it is about 300 millimeters of sand. And above the sand is 1.7 meters of anthracite. Anthracite is a type of very hard coal. Any particles in the water, such as silt, organic matter, bacteria and viruses, are trapped in the filter bed. So after the water is filtered, it flows through an ultraviolet reactor where it's exposed to ultraviolet light. An ultraviolet light has an effect on the DNA of bacteria and viruses and effectively neutralizes them.
Early in 2009, the tunnel construction was back on track.
The new contractor was hired in early 2009, and they have resumed excavation in July of 2009.
The filtration plant is set to go online in 2010 with Seymour Water, which serves about 40% of Metro residents. Capilano Water will begin filtering in 2013. I'm going to be touring the facility today with Metro Vancouver's Chair of the Water Committee, Tim Stevenson. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hello. So why are we building this plant?
Well, Metro Vancouver's Water Committee supplies the water to 22 municipalities in the Lower Mainland. And a number of years ago, to meet the new federal and provincial regulations, it was necessary to build this plant.
So Metro Vancouver has sustainability as a core operating principle. How does filtering water fit into that idea?
Well, obviously water is our most precious resource, and it's a resource that we can't take for granted. And even though we have an abundance here, we're very fortunate. We need to learn not only how to conserve, but how we can share our knowledge with countries around the world that are struggling just for very basic amounts of water. So that's why we're building this magnificent filtration plant here.
Our water is rainwater, collected by reservoirs in the North Shore Mountains, meticulously tested and treated in our facilities before being delivered straight to your home or workplace. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Metro Vancouver tap water, dropped from the clouds, purified, then delivered to you. Welcome back to the Sustainable Region. Behind me is the Operations and Maintenance Center of the Seymour Capilano Filtration Plant. And my guest today is Tim Stevenson, Chair of Metro Vancouver's Water Committee. Tim, I understand that this plant exemplifies sustainability.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, right from the very beginning, this plant was going to be in a different location altogether. But then it was discovered there was a beautiful grove of Douglas fir and Sitka spruce that were about 165 years old. So it was decided that we would move the plant entirely and put it in a little different location. So that's quite amazing for a plant.
And what about during the construction phase?
This is actually a LEED Gold building. It's state-of-the-art. The concrete was EcoSmart concrete, which meant there's 10,000 tons less of CO2 in the atmosphere. And on top of that, all of the gravel for the concrete comes from just around this area. And that meant there was 75,000 less vehicles, less trucks going by than there would have been had the concrete come from somewhere else. So it's quite amazing.
I noticed that the lobby behind me is really impressive. It's nice and airy. Does it have any green building design elements to it?
Well, absolutely. This is, as you say, a beautiful building, but it's also very functional. The sunlight comes in through all of that glass that you can see there and heats up the air, and it's like a chimney effect. Then the hot air rises, and this helps, of course, the circulation of the entire building. So it's really a magnificent addition to this whole plant.
Great, thank you so much, Tim. And it's not just the inside of the building that incorporates green design. The roofs themselves are green, literally.
We've got two different green roof systems that we have here, the one that we're standing on right now, and then there's also one on the roof of the building. There's a difference between intensive and what we call extensive green roofs. The ones on the building roofs are extensive. The soil depth is quite a bit less. It's more like a garden planter that you would sort of have on your balcony, that sort of soil depth, 15 centimeters to 30 centimeters, as opposed to where we are right now, and there's about a meter of soil covering the roof of this building that we're standing on right now. We put soil on top of the roof, and that helps to stop the amount of water or runoff that we have to deal with. It's quite a big area, so this intercepts all of the water, and we've planted native plants here to use that water and the nutrients in the soil. So it's a little bit different than the forest that you'd see around here. For the shallower green roof system that's on top of the buildings, we had to select plants that can survive really heavy rainfall in the fall and winter, and then also survive hot, dry time in the summer. So we've gone with much lower growing plants, a lot of succulent plants that can retain the moisture that they gather through the winter, and they can survive more drought periods, and the same thing with the grass species. The woody debris that you see scattered around in the form of logs and stumps was to make the habitat here a little bit more complex for some of the small mammals that we were trying to attract. So squirrels, mice, things like that. So these logs will eventually rot, and while they're rotting there's a lot of insects here, and they'll break down and give nutrients back to the grasses and plants that are growing on the roof. One of the key things that we tried to do when the site was cleared, we actually saved all the stumps, all the soil that was on the site. We moved it to a handling site, and then once we were ready to revegetate, we brought everything back again. So this is all the native soil that was originally on the site. Both the green roofs were built to meet the LEED Gold standard, which is the second highest standard that you can achieve in LEED. We kind of knew what we were getting into, but it was a big job to get it all done and to come in on budget and on schedule, but we managed to do that.
Welcome back to the Sustainable Region. Understandably, this treatment plant focuses on the filtration side of things, but ultraviolet treatment is an important component. In fact, this is the largest UV treatment system in the world. Tim, can you explain to me why we need UV treatment?
Well, sure. After the water, the filtered water comes in here through these pipes, it then goes on into this ultraviolet reactor. Actually, you can feel the water, coming through the pipe. And then it comes into this reactor, and the water is disinfected. This is the ultraviolet lights that actually disinfect the water and take out any microorganisms. And therefore, the water, as it proceeds on from here, will need far less chlorine than we've been using up to now. But this reactor is quite an amazing piece of equipment, as you can imagine. You can see all of the lights that are attached to it, and there are 24 of them within this area. And we will bring in and filter through any given reactor about 70 million liters of water per day.
70 million liters. And what about the energy of UV treatment?
Well, of course, it does use energy, but this is state-of-the-art equipment. There's a lot of other UV equipment that uses far more energy. This particular UV reactor uses less than any of those.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Tim. It's fascinating. Next up, we go deeper, underground, as we look at the incredible engineering involved in putting the Capilano in Seymour Capilano Filtration Plant. Another load of muck is being dumped above ground at the access shaft to the twin tunnels excavation for the Seymour Capilano Filtration Plant.
We call it the access shaft because everything that's being built goes through this shaft, and also everything excavated being taken away through this shaft.
The shaft is 11 meters in diameter and 180 meters deep. Workers take an elevator to the bottom, where the temperature is a constant 6 degrees. At the bottom of the shaft, a perpetual rain falls, the result of the cold air from the surface meeting the warmer underground air. A grate opens in the floor of the access shaft, allowing the muck bucket to be lowered into position. Rail cars carry the granite from the tunnel head, which is dumped into the muck bucket to be hauled to the surface. Every day, about 67 carloads of granite are excavated. Each train load is 5 cars and represents 1.5 meters progress. The work proceeds under the watchful eye of the patron saint of miners, St. Barbara. In her hand is a Davy lamp, which was used to detect methane gas in the early history of mine work. Special diesel engines, with scrubbers to reduce emissions, carry the workers from the base of the access tunnel to the boring machines.
We are in the passenger car of the train that's on its way from the Seymour shaft to the front of the excavation. The excavation front is approximately 4.8 kilometers from the Seymour shaft. This train ride is going to take us approximately 20 minutes.
The work goes on 24 hours a day, 2 shifts of 10 hours for the boring, and 4 hours for maintenance.
There's way too high of a gauge in there anyways. It should only be at 50 or 60 PSI.
The machines are 600 meters underground at this point, just a little bit west of Grouse Mountain.
This is the tunnel boring machine, approximately 18 meters in front of us. There is a cutter head that actually excavates the rock. The cutter head turns, it crunches the rock gets scooped up and it gets put into the conveyor belt. The conveyor belt takes the rock to the back of the machine where it gets dumped into those cars.
The boring machines have large grippers on either side.
In order to move the machine forward, we need to apply the huge amount of force through these grippers into the side wall that allow us to continue excavation forward.
Goran Oljaka, the senior engineer on the project, pays particular attention to the tunnel's surface. Each crack and fissure has been mapped and entered into a massive database.
Tunnels are being excavated to granite. The quality of the rock varies from really good, that does not require any support, to the some of the support at the crown of the tunnels, to the support with wire mesh and the bolts that comes down to the spring line of the tunnels. Some of the weaker sections have even steel sets erected to support the rock.
As the maintenance crew finish their work, the next shift of miners arrive to begin boring. The boring machines move forward about 20 meters a day, and it's expected that the tunneling will be completed in 2010, with water flowing in 2013. Welcome back to the Sustainable Region. I'm in the filtration plant's control room. There are 10,000 pieces of plant equipment and 11 million lines of programming represented on these computer screens. And the whole plant can be operated with one person and a mouse. When fully operational, it'll have a crew of 4 operators. And in case you think your skill at video gaming qualifies you to work here, it takes 2 years of schooling and 2 years of on-site training to be ready to run this operation. My guest today is Metro Vancouver's Chair of the Water Committee, Tim Stevenson. Tim, you've been instrumental in Metro Vancouver's tap water campaign.
Right.
So why do you want us to get rid of our bottled water?
Well, it's not so much getting rid of bottled water as it is promoting public filtered tap water. This new filtration plant will mean that we have no turbidity whatsoever in our water. We'll have the finest, the purest water that you can get anywhere in the world and right out of your own tap. So there's really no need at all to turn to bottled water. Now, obviously, bottles themselves are a pollutant and they're a huge problem in our landfills and so on, and you can't just easily dispose of plastic bottles. But really what we're trying to do is make sure that everybody knows that you don't need to use bottled water and that you can just go to the tap and fill up any kind of a container that you want, that you have, other than plastic, and have the best water in the world. Bottled water, of course, you have no idea where it's coming from. It doesn't tell you where it's from. It doesn't tell you the date it's bottled. It could have come from Mississippi, for all you know. Whereas our water comes right here from our mountains, our local mountains, and you know it's the very best. So that's what this campaign's about.
Great. And in a previous episode, we actually showed some public service announcements that were developed about tap water by people from Pacific Cinematheque.
Yeah.
And we wanted to give you the opportunity to pick a favorite. Do you have a favorite that we can show as an encore?
Well, I actually enjoy several of them, but I think my very favorite is the first date.
All right, well, roll it.
So, this is it. You maybe want to come in for a glass of wine or something?
I have to work tomorrow. I can't be hungover.
A cup of coffee. How about a cup of coffee?
Caffeine will keep me up all night.
All right. Tap water?
Done.
In our last story, we head outside the gates to take a look at a beautiful hike you can take around the plant on the new Interpretive trail that's being completed.
The trail's going to start right in the public parking lot, and you get a really good view of the start of the process there where the water comes into the plant. And as you work your way around the trail, you'll be able to see the green roof that was built on one portion of the plant. You'll be able to get up on the clear wells itself, so we'll be able to point out, you know, you're standing on X number of billion liters of water. You're going to come around the other side and you can see some of the stormwater ponds that were created so that there would be no net gain in water leaving the plant. When they were laying out the plant location, there was a resident population of frogs in one pond on the site, and that the plant was moved so that that could be retained. It should give us, you know, 10, 15 years before we have to do any maintenance on it, and it's a very binding product. It's going to work well. There's a couple of key trails that we have, Twin Bridges Trail and the Fisherman's Trail, and the new trails in the filter plant. We're actually providing some linkage to those trails. We are going to be running our school programs through it, so kindergarten to grade 12 education programs come up here, and we'll be using that Interpretive trail for those programs. So yeah, it'd be good for everyone.
Well, that's it for today's show. If you want to contact us, call us at 604-436-6794 or email us at sustainableregion@metrovancouver.org. Our videos are also online at www.metrovancouver.org under Outreach. For the Sustainable Region, I'm Vanessa Timmer. Thanks for watching. See you next time.